Hello, my name is Paul Wyatt, Team Worden producer, and today I'm here to talk to you about our game, Worden. Worden is set in a futuristic science fiction theme, and the story revolves around the EMS Worden. The Worden is an aging cargo ship carrying a load of prisoners to a maximum security prison. John Larimer, one of these prisoners, is accidentally woken from his cryostasis when the Worden collides with an uncharted asteroid. With the crew dead, John realizes his only chance for survival lies in the lone escape pod located in the captain's quarters at the front of the ship. Between him and the fore sections are a multitude of security turrets, broken hull sections, and roving security drones. In Worden, we wanted to experiment with platforming, puzzles, and gravity. So in the design of the game, we took into account how a ship that normally doesn't experience gravity would be able to store objects and generally lay out its hull. You'll find often in Worden that the player will need to visit the different walls and ceiling of each deck section in order to move on. The concept of allowing us to rotate the ship to access multiple different areas gives us unique level building options. It also encourages the player to think in 3 dimensions, while simultaneously allowing us to take advantage of the cathedral effect. This encourages players to be more creative and increases their 3-dimensional spatial awareness. So when a player walks into a new level for the first time, one of their first impulses may be to look up and see what the walls and ceiling look like so they can get a better idea of how to solve the various puzzles on the ship. And in addition to our rotation mechanic, we also have a zero gravity jump mechanic. This is when the player can intentionally reverse the gravity so that the player pawn is actually forced to move up. This allows the player to glide over broken areas of the hull, or even to reach raised platforms they wouldn't be able to reach normally. Now, if you combine our rotation and our gravity jumping mechanics, it can allow for a level of maneuverability that other games just simply can't produce. This allows us, when designing our levels, to create areas and obstacles that wouldn't be able to be solved by another game. In addition to this, Worden includes a rich storyline, crafted and voiced acted by the members of Team Worden. The story follows the choice of John Larimer, our main character, and what he intends to do with the prisoners who are left on board the ship. This choice is very real, and the players are allowed to make it at the end of the game. All in all, Worden brings the player from cargo sections to the air conditioning control center, from broken hull sections, and all the way up to the bridge. So thank you for listening, and I do hope you enjoy more of the details about our game, Worden.
Hello, my name is David Zadvar, and I will be talking about how our game actually plays. Controlling the player character's movement is done with the W, A, S, and D keys as found in many PC games. Just like those games, W moves the player character forward, S is to run backwards, and A and D strafe left and right respectively. Looking around is done with the mouse, another feature found in many PC games, and picking up batteries is accomplished by looking at them, and when the aiming reticle changes into a hand, you click either the left or right mouse buttons to pick them up. Interacting with door switches or battery holders requires the player character to move in front of them, with the battery holders having an additional requirement of the player possessing at least one battery. Activating a battery holder will automatically remove a battery from the total amount the player has by 1. Switches can open doors, activate the battery spawners, or turn off stationary turrets and don't need a battery to function. Pressing the spacebar activates the gravity inversion mechanic, allowing the player to float upwards. Holding the button longer will increase the height, and releasing the button returns gravity back to normal. Once done, the player will have to wait for the gravity inversion to recharge before being able to use it again. Pressing the Q and E buttons will rotate the ship, with an on-screen prompt that indicates the direction that the ship will rotate relative to the direction the player is facing. This rotation also needs to recharge before the player can rotate the level in either direction. Using the rotation and inversion functions together allows the player to traverse the level in interesting ways.
Hello, my name is Jeb Alvarado, and I'm gonna start off the post-mortem of Worden. What worked well during our development? First off, we mastered Google Hangouts, because after each meeting with the professors, we would have a meeting there where we would set our tasks for the week and take notes in case during the week we forgot about something and have them in our database in Google Drive. Another thing that worked really well was having our daily reports on Skype, because we would always have Skype open and there was someone always available, and there we would just provide and receive feedback on our progress, and if we needed any help with something, someone would just jump and help us out, which was really cool. Another thing that worked really well was having a story-driven game, because the story elements in our game, they just improve the game's playability by far. Uh, I hope each and every one of you have a chance to play it, because I know you're gonna like it. Another thing that worked really well was the theme, because it was science fiction based, developed in space, and most of the content that UDK provides really fits for our development, which was really cool. Now, what didn't work well during our development? First off, spider physics for inversion. We wanted to manipulate gravity, and the spider physics didn't cooperate so well because we got them running, but later on you'll see in one of the videos what was really our problem with the character positioning and everything. Another thing that didn't work really well was the use of crates or boxes. We had an idea similar to the companion cube in Portal, which we could use a crate as an interactive object. We could use as stairs, so we could climb into higher places, but by adding an inversion jump, pretty much disabled the use of stairs. So another use we had was using it as a weapon, but by implementing the switches to deactivate the turrets, pretty much scrapped that idea or that feature from the crate. So the feature left was using it as a shield, but pretty much by having a delay on the turret's shooting mechanism could help the player evade the bullets and run for cover. So the crates are out. Another thing that didn't work well during our development was using a square / box shaped room, because when rotating, if an object or the player got stuck in the edge of the room, it would just spring out and disappear from the level, and it was weird. So we opted for an octagonal shaped room. So we had a similar problem with the objects that we held because of their collision and physics. If they collided with a wall, maybe they could just spring out of the area and maybe disappear, because they could snap out of a corner and they would just go crazy. And it was funny to look at, but very frustrating when it comes to development. So we replaced that with a battery counter in the HUD. Later on you will be able to see it. Now, what we found most useful during the development was, first off, rotating the level instead of walking through the walls with the spider physics. As you can see, it runs very smooth, because by rotating one object, everything else in the level that was previously attached would rotate with it. So it was very useful, plus it gave the gravity manipulation feeling that we were aiming for, so it worked well. Another thing was the discovery of the attachments window, because it eased up on the loading of the level, because we had a level loading system set up in Kismet that would just take forever and ever. And this would just remove all that, because from the beginning of the level, they were just simply attached. And last thing was, instead of streaming the levels, just load them from the end of one map to the other. That was simple, easy, and worked, so why fix what isn't broken, right? So that's it for me. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Glenn Nauer. I'm going to be covering some of the cool features that we have in our game. First one that I would like to cover is the music and the voiceovers. The first thing you can notice is the background music. That was actually made by Nelson Pacheco, which is an audio student at Full Sail. We would like to thank him very much for the time and effort he put into these tracks. So thank you very much. Next thing we have is the voiceovers. Everyone on the team actually has a part to play, and every level has much voiceover, and they all have subtitles, and it was a big task to do, and we are glad we got it in. One of the main reasons we are actually glad we got this is because our story is Our game is actually very story-driven, so we thought the best way to portray that story was through voice and through communication. So we went with this task of doing voiceovers for everyone, and getting all this in here was a very big task. We're very glad it pulled off in the end because we have a very great story to tell through all the voices and voice acting.
No can do.
Another cool feature that we think we have is the mass scale of attachment that we've been able to accomplish. This has kind of been covered before, but I'm going to go under the hood a little bit. In order to rotate our level, every object actually has to rotate with it. In order to do this, we attached every object to one specific object, and all we did was make that one object rotate, and everything attached to it followed suit. Beforehand, we had a little bit of a different setup, which added a lot of load times and a lot of slow processing, but the new form that we have now actually just attaches everything very quickly and makes it all very smooth. So once we rotate, you can see that everything rotates except the player and a few things such as the batteries and main objective pieces. But everything had to be attached to one object and one object only, and then that one object just turns and everything just follows suit. One last cool feature that I personally like is the asteroids in our game. Every asteroid has its own unique rotation, therefore they all have their own unique natural movement. One really cool thing about this is that every asteroid's rotation is apart from the level rotation. So we can rotate our level and the asteroids won't rotate with them, but the asteroids will still sustain their own unique rotation. So I'm going to perform some cool asteroid hops here if I can, and show you that they're all kind of rotating in their own uniqueness. Oh dear.
My name is Ben Freed from Team Worden, and today I'll be talking to you about how our current game compares to our initial vision at the start of Final Project. Our initial vision for the game was this tranquil shell collection game where the player would find themselves on a serene beach in the middle of some tropical islands. But that idea was shot down fairly quickly for being too easy to build, so instead we went with the concept of inversion. Let's dive right into our first prototype using the concept of inversion. At the beginning of RAM, we decided upon a space theme whereby the player plays as a prisoner who takes control of gravity inside of a spaceship to try and escape on one of the remaining pods. We hit the ground running quickly by implementing our core mechanic of inverting gravity, along with pushing and grabbing objects that form the foundation of our puzzle designs later. However, we hit quite the snag as we continued to develop this concept. We needed a way for the player to properly walk on an inverted gravity environment, so we decided to try our hands at implementing some wall walking. As you can see, the fruits of our labor did indeed allow for us to walk on walls and transition from floor to ceiling, but the player pawn did not want to play nicely with us for several weeks. Needless to say, this feature created a lot of technical trouble for us, and we eventually abandoned it entirely. Enter our improved concept, rotational control of the ship whilst retaining inversion of gravity. Instead of trying to walk on walls, we decided to give the player control over the rotation of the ship. This opened up a world of possibilities for us and provided a much more stable environment for us to focus on puzzle designs. At this stage, we implemented drones and turrets as well, and kept the ability to push objects and grab them. We became quite happy with our new vision from FE1 and took it as far as we could go. This of course meant implementing an entire menu system, voice acting, a few musical scores, and a brand new HUD you'll see in a moment. The final version of the game maintains the rotational control over the ship and allows the player to invert gravity at will. We also decided to remove pushing and grabbing of objects because we felt the feature unnecessary as far as our puzzle designs go. Instead, we opted for an inventory system to ease the burden on the player and added in batteries for them to collect to help power some of the ship's main operations. So there you have it. What started with shells on a beach transformed into a prisoner in space aboard a broken ship. Quite a journey, I'd say, and we're very glad that you've come along for the ride. Thanks again.